So let's talk GPA. If you guys haven't seen my video over here, I actually talked about my job and internships rejection, and a lot of them are actually on low GPA. So my highest was probably 289 and my lowest was probably like a 2.7, something like that. I've always been a good student. I'm not a good tester. So whenever we have like classes where we are discussing or we're doing presentations or we're doing projects, I tend to do really well. But whenever there's an exam, I all of a sudden just like, ooh, I hate those questions when it's like, is it A and B, or is it B and C, or is it all of the above? Oh my God. That's what I don't miss about school. So I don't like exams. I just don't. It's like, I may know it, but there's just so many like gray area and like yes or no, or maybe not, or just in general. So I'm just like, I hate exams, and because of that, I also didn't do so well in my GPA. But a lot of issues that maybe if you have a low GPA, you probably also realize too, it's a lot harder to get jobs and internships, especially if the fact that other people have high GPA, so now you're trying to compete against them for the same exact roles. And some companies also do have GPA requirements. So I think the first thing you should think about first is like, what exactly is the cause of your low GPA? Because that could be the way you can kind of rephrase everything for you. Some people may say like mental or health issues. Some people could say they were a bad tester, or maybe they just have other things, or they took a gap year, or they just changed a major, or anything like that. It's completely fine that maybe like you came in as a computer science major and you just did not like it. This is it for you, and you found out from your grades. That's like one thing that I thought was very bad about the system, is that if maybe you just did not like what you were doing and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, okay, now I find something, but then my GPA was so low before, it doesn't go that high. So like, for example, my junior, senior year, I did so well in classes, but because of my freshman, sophomore year, it just always stayed in the 2 range and never went as high as 3. So a lot of my classes that I ended up not doing so well were actually non-business classes. So a lot of those that just were not even part of my curriculum, they were like liberal arts requirements I had to do, they brought my GPA down. So with that, like, it was hard to get an internship. So I had to find internships and jobs where they didn't look at your GPA, they just cared about your experience. But this is what this video is going to be for you if you have a low GPA and you want to try to get out of that rut. You're trying to get a good job or internship. So a lot of strategies I'm going to say is exactly what I actually did. So the first thing is that you want to make sure you have leadership experience in organizations. So it could be something like secretary at a club, or maybe you're like an events coordinator or vice president or president or treasurer, anything like that. You want to be a leadership position because it shows that you can actually demonstrate leadership and you can actually do something on your own. It's very similar to a work experience, except there's like no real incentive in terms of like the pay or a grade or anything like that. This is like all for you. So you can actually kind of curate however you want your experience. A lot of what I try to do something more like problem solving, because I knew I wanted to do something in tech and I knew I wanted to do something in consulting. So I was like, okay, you know what? If I like problem solving, why don't I solve problems and just try to figure out like what are some new things I can try to do? Because you were elected for a reason, or appointed, whatever you were, and you want to show that you were not wasting space on e-board or executive board. You want to make sure you actually show value, because if you don't have work experience, you have this to show that like, oh, whenever we have problem, like let's say for example, low attendance on events, then what did you do? Did you do like a different marketing campaign, and then what was the result? So good when it comes to job interviews in your freshman, sophomore year, because you don't have a job or an internship that like probably usually then they're always like looking for juniors and seniors. But if you have a leadership experience, you can do that. There's also another thing you should also keep in mind is be a good participator in classes. So even if you may not know how to do it in terms of like retaining information or trying to do like exams or anything like that, which was basically me, I tried to participate as much as I can in classes I cared about, or in general. So those classes, that's where you want to make sure you get participation points to help with your grade, but also make sure that you really get engaged and apply the knowledge that you learn. So this also means that you want to make a good impression on your professor, because a lot of those times your professor may have some connections or may make a referral for you to a job or an internship or a connection or anything like that. So you want to make sure you have a good standpoint with your professor. The other thing is get real life experience. And I know it's like kind of non-intuitive because it's just like this video is to get experience. Why am I getting real experience? So this could be for many things. One could be like, let's say for example, you're trying to get experience in consulting, and maybe like on some summer you couldn't get an internship because your GPA was too low or anything like that, or maybe you just had a lot of issues that you just couldn't get anything. So you can go to maybe like a small business nearby and say, hey, can I help you out with your website? So they're not going to ask for your GPA. They're just not going to do that. But you can at least get real life experience and portfolio work to actually have to show. And that way it can help you for future internships. So if that doesn't work out, maybe do something on the side as well and learn things on the side too. So certifications, training, or anything like that. So you want to upskill. So for whenever people focus on their grades, you want to focus on their skills and experience. So things like Salesforce or maybe like AWS, if anything like that intrigues you, do that. Or maybe anything like UX, but make sure that it's not something that you don't want to do, because otherwise it's just like you don't want to add all these random skills for no reason. You wouldn't actually be able to apply them to whatever you want to do. That's one way around it. You want to show you have the right skills and experience, and eventually you can use those skills to do your real life experience to help out other small businesses, or maybe you want to help out your mom's business or something like that. A lot of random things that you can do. You could do a lot of volunteer experiences, or you could do unpaid internships and jobs. So there's so many things you can do to really get that real life experience. Because at the end of the day on your resume, it's not going to show if it's paid or not. It doesn't really matter. It just shows that you have experience. And usually the ones, in my opinion, that are unpaid are the ones that you probably would be doing the most. They can't really pay you, so they probably are more startup-like, so you could probably contribute a lot more than you think. The other thing is to network, which I mentioned earlier on in like another video, is that if you network and you have a low GPA, there's a higher chance to actually get into a firm if, like, let's say, for example, GPA requirement's 3.0 and you have like a 2.5. I don't know. I don't even think if schools allows you to get 2.5, but let's say you have a GPA of 2.8 and the requirement is 3.0. So sometimes it's a hard requirement, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's really just if you get the right networking and the right connections, then that's what you can do. So I would recommend you to network early on, like maybe 1 to 2 years before you really need to worry about like a job or internship. So that way you could build a relationship. You don't want to just reach out to someone one time and say, hey, can you refer me in? No, don't do that. So, and if you want to learn more about that, make sure to check out the videos over here. That way you can learn more about how to do these informational interviews. It's not a short race. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So you want to make sure that you build a relationship with them, so eventually they know how you are as a person and vouch for them. So when it comes to networking, that's like a really good way to get your foot in the door. You should still do all of the above though, in terms of like get your experience, get your skills, and participate and be like really well-rounded with your leadership skills. That's actually how I got into Accenture. They said they really liked how I was well-rounded and I had all of these leadership skills and experiences. So doing that can really help you out and make them overlook your GPA. So this also means when it comes to networking, you want to attend every career session, information session, and networking event for your ideal career or field or company. So that way you get your name known, and it's like a lot better than this random person that's got a 4.0 GPA and just comes in and is like, hey, I want a job. So they're not going to look at that person as much as if they know your face and they know how you are. You're not gonna flaunt your low GPA when you go to those events, but at least they know that you are very professional, you know them, and it shows that you have a lot of interest in them and you know their company enough. So that's something you should definitely do too. So if you have any like career center out there that has all these bulletin board announcements, listen to them, follow them, subscribe them, anything like that to make sure you are up to date with all the events that are on campus. After all of that, I just want to make sure that you guys know that low GPA does not dictate who you are, okay? I had so much anxiety in my sophomore and junior year where I was like, oh, no one's taking me because of my low GPA, or like the ones that I didn't want to take, they found out about my cumulative GPA and they didn't like my major GPA. If you guys didn't hear about it, it's in my rejection story video. So that's something to keep in mind, that not everyone falls under the typical student profile. So this means that like maybe you're not a good tester, but maybe you're good with your hands, or maybe you're good with actually applying it and talking and doing things. So for that, a lot of times I try to go for more project-based classes, and that's what I ended up doing junior, senior year. My freshman, sophomore year, I couldn't really do that. It's a lot of the intro classes that are not like that. So that's something to keep in mind, and it does not dictate that you are a dumb person, okay? So a lot of times whenever you go to work or something like that, after a year or two when you're in the workforce, they don't even care about your GPA anymore. Probably like whenever you go for a master's degree. But like, let's say for example, my boyfriend actually came into Accenture, after his first job, they didn't even ask for his GPA, okay? It's like been 1 to 2 years after he graduated, they didn't ask. If you do end up falling in the rut and maybe it's too late, it's like senior year and you can't really do all of the things that I mentioned other than networking, so make sure to still do that. If you are still having an issue, it's okay to go for like another job out there that at least is relevant, and at least if it's relevant in terms of the field or the industry, go for it. And then that way, if they don't have a GPA requirement, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And then after that, you can try to transition to a company that did have a GPA requirement. So I know a lot of people who ended up going for a lot of jobs and internships that did not have a GPA requirement, but leveraged their prior experience to get a job outside of college, after college, to get a really good job there. So let's say my boyfriend also had a not so great GPA as well. So he didn't really meet a lot of the GPA requirements for those top programs in computer science. So what he ended up doing was he just did some job in technology consulting. It was like a small firm, like literally 3 or 4 people. And it was also very low pay too. So from that, he was actually able to get a better job, at least at Accenture. They even asked for his GPA. They didn't ask for anything of those issues that he had back in college or anything like that. So he was able to get in just fine, and he's now on the same level as me. That goes to show that after college, like GPA doesn't really matter anymore. So you just need to keep in mind that it doesn't dictate who you are. You can still redeem yourself, if not during college, outside of college or after graduation. And you want to also make sure you carry yourself well. Your professionalism speaks for itself, that you don't want to be coming late to a meeting. You want to always come ready with a pen to do some notes or anything like that, or come prepared with questions and actually make a discussion whenever they have a call or whenever they have a meeting. So that's all I really have when it comes to low GPA. It's not the end of the world if you have a low GPA, and I'm kind of like a result of that is that even though I had a low GPA, I had a lot of anxiety on it too, is because just, you know, like being Asian and everything, like my family was like, why is your GPA so low? Blah, 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 blah. So I tried to do my best to do everything else. So because I know I was not a good tester, at least I can show everything else that I'm a good worker, I have good professionalism, I make great ideas, I do really well in execution. At the end of the day, like I think maybe 10% of what I learned in school, which is the part that I actually did well in, management information systems and strategy, that is actually the one that really carried me through at my work. But I didn't actually like use anything when it came to archaeology in my consulting job. No. That's something to keep in mind. Don't beat yourself down. I did that a lot, and I really hated the fact that I did that. But just, you know, it's not for everyone, but at the same time, still try to do well in your classes. Still try to participate and try to absorb everything, because that's where you learn a lot more than if you just try to do it for the test. So that's all I have for this video. Hopefully this video helps a lot. And especially because it's like towards the end of the year, this is like probably after your finals and everything, and you're like wondering like, what should I do? So if you guys have a good GPA, that's good for you, but maybe you have a low GPA, I think this video can help you a lot. So let me know down in the comments below if you had any questions at all, any tips that you may have as well. I think I covered everything that I would have done, or things that I have actually personally done myself. So hopefully this video helps a lot. Thank you guys so much, and see you guys next time. Bye.